everybody.
Good morning,
Good
good
afternoon
afternoon,
and good
good
evening.
evening. That's the new sign-on because that was the
Mhm,
homework for those that
mhm,
watched last week and listened
mhm,
last week. That was my homework for this week.
mhm.
So my new sign-on is, and yours is,
Good
good morning,
morning, good
good afternoon,
afternoon and
good
good
evening,
evening.
Mrs. Butler. Sounds like a school.
And welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Podcast.
No,
Oh my God.
no, this is quite fitting about what we're discussing today, actually. Welcome to the Mr. and Mrs. in
Business
Business
podcast.
podcast,
There we go. There
where
it
we
is.
talk things about, for those who don't know, what it's like running a business, the
Mm,
good, the bad, being husband
Ugly.
and wife, the
Mm,
ugly. That's
mm,
not just me.
mm.
So we try and be open and honest and give people a little bit
Yep.
of an insight into what it's like
Mm,
running a business,
mm,
not all the good stuff that we see online, some of
mm,
the bad bits as well,
mhm.
and what it's like doing that as a husband and wife and trying to juggle, well, pretty
Life,
much everything.
life, family, everything
Family,
else.
life, job,
Everything in between.
dog.
Dog, moaning dog.
Yep.
Look at
So
me, look at me.
last week she was
Love
okay.
me.
This week it looks like she's going to be a bit of a
Guess we're in
nightmare.
for a nice treat, aren't we?
So this week we should be discussing, and I think I should hand this over to you because this
Mm.
isn't something that the male species suffers with.
No, indeed. Just another one to add to the list for us females, like we don't run the world, girls. Um,
Oh dear.
can we clip that
Is this
out?
going to be one of those podcasts, is it? I think people have had enough of our attempts at X Factor.
I don't think we did any singing last week, though. I did actually have
Good.
to withhold
That's
myself.
a good thing.
No, I know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, as we said last week briefly, I've started going through perimenopause, and it's just been a real eye opener as to how much people women my age don't know anything about it, mainly including myself and my group of friends. Like, it was a really unknown, like, hang on, what the hell is this? This is just what our mums go through when they're much older, when they're really old. And one of my friends came in yesterday, the other day, actually, earlier in the week, and she said, "Oh, I saw a cafe in the local town," and she said it was free for over 50s, and I was like, "Oh, right," and she was like, "That's 8 years away," and I was like, "Oh,
But
thanks."
it's funny you say that you don't know a lot about it because
Mm,
I didn't even know that
mhm.
perimenopause was actually a thing.
I
So
didn't. Yeah.
I knew about menopause,
Yep.
and similar to you, I
Mm,
thought it was something that 50s, 60-year-old ladies. Well,
yep.
the only experience I have with menopause is my
Mm,
mother going through it
mm,
when I was a young lad, and her screaming at my dad,
mm,
always saying she got a hot flush, opening all the
mm,
windows, and
mm.
it'd be freezing cold.
Yeah.
And that's as much as I really knew.
Yeah.
Um, and then you tell me that you think you're in perimenopause, and
Mm,
I'm like, here we go. Here's
mm,
something she's made up.
mm,
Perimenopause. She's been
mm.
on Google
Here's the
Doctor,
drama queen.
made something up,
Mm.
but it is actually a thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it is really interesting. The thing is, there are 52 symptoms of, like, perimenopause. So it is hard to detect, and when you go to the doctors to try and detect it, it's, really hard, and a lot of doctors still treat it and diagnose it very differently. So, I became a lot, I became involved in a lot of Facebook groups, for example, that for women that were going through perimenopause, because I like talking and being open about what I'm going through, and I like to hear how other people are finding it, what are the tips and tricks they've got to share, and I want to share them too. And it was just interesting that. How differently people were being seen by the doctors. Some women have been going to the doctor for years
Right.
trying to get diagnosed with perimenopause because they just know they feel different in so many more ways than one. And they're being just told, "Shoo, you know, you're not over, you're not over 55, you're not over 50, forget it, that's a no." Um, some will make you do a blood test, but the thing is that all of your hormone levels are doing this, hence the mood swings,
Right.
hence the this part of the month I'm feeling great, this next day, no, don't even don't even think about it, love. So that's why it's so like that. So if you go for a blood test, your bloods could be up, or literally the next day they could be down.
So they can't really diagnose then from a blood test.
But this is what I've read. I'm sure people have different, like, opinions on it, but
As with
from
everything
what
in life.
yes. So I'm not saying this is the be all and end all, but from my readings, it can be hard to detect because it changes throughout the month, continually. So when I went to my doctor, she is actually a menopause specialist.
Okay.
And I was getting so frustrated at the time, and I said to you, "Look, I think I am going through perimenopause from the research that I've done." And I actually had one friend that was going through it as well, and she was like, "Look, you need to go to the doctors."
Right.
And I remember at the time I said to you, "Look, there is a specialist doctor in the area, but she runs her own clinic." So anyway, I managed to get to see her with the local doctor, just through our local doctors, and yeah, instantly listened to my symptoms, and
Hmm.
instantly said, you can go on HRT gel, which you apply each day to your inner leg, and
So, go on,
a
sorry.
little tip with that I've found is I was rubbing the gel in with my hands, and then, of course, the gel rubs into your hands as well, but you're putting it on your inner thigh because the skin is a different texture and it absorbs differently than a different part of your body. So that's where they recommend to put it.
Mhm.
And oh, she can't get that ball. Um, and somebody said about putting it on with the lid of the gel. So the lid of the gel allows it to fully absorb into your leg. So it's much better than using your hand because it's gonna absorb into your hand as well. So that was a nice little tip. So now I do that every day. And then I was speaking to other people. I mean, one lady I was speaking to, I mean, I just apply it once in the morning, but she's having to apply it 3 times a day, 2 pumps a day. Whereas,
Okay.
yeah, so that's sort of helping with her
So can we
hormone
go back a
level.
little bit then? Sorry. So you had perimenopause, or you
You're in
believed you had perimenopause.
Yeah.
How? What is it? What were the symptoms you were having at that time that made you think?
Yeah.
How did you get from? Hold on,
Mm.
I don't feel right.
Mm.
I think I've got perimenopause. I need to go and see a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah. I was feeling really, really down. And I had no real reason for feeling that down.
Okay.
Um, I appreciate, you do feel down from time to time, but it was feeling like a bit continually like that. Just not very positive about anything, not wanting to do anything, then not wanting to even see friends and things. Then it was the weight gain just instantly in your stomach area. I mean, I'd put on a bit of weight anyway, but the stomach area was just, I couldn't do up my trousers and my jeans. It
Hmm.
was really just not sort of aligning with the rest of my weight gain.
Right.
Um, I've got them written down because one of them was brain fog. I was finding that I was forgetting things and saying the wrong words for certain things a little bit as well. And I was sort of, I mean, it's been getting a little bit worse the last couple of weeks actually, because had conversations with you. For example, I'll say, oh, I like that red sofa. And you'll be like, what do you mean the red sofa? And I'll be like, I, I just said the blue sofa.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, but you just said the red sofa. And I'll be like, no, I said the blue sofa. So yeah, that's quite scary actually. It's not very nice. So yeah, it's not a nice place to be. Aches and pains in your body, just not like what you used to have.
Hmm.
I haven't actually personally had that too much. I think I've been quite lucky with my body. Like a lot of my friends have had aches and pains in their bodies because they've got bad back or a bad knee or something. I'm quite lucky I haven't really had that, to be honest. So that hasn't really been one for me. Hot flushes and night sweats, I haven't had that yet either, in all honesty. Um, but one for me was definitely not sleeping properly. That was a huge one for
Yeah,
me.
because that was almost overnight, right?
Yeah,
So you've never had a problem with sleeping. You've been out
yeah,
like a baby. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I think a hurricane could pass outside and
yeah,
you would sleep.
yeah.
But all of a sudden, and this
Mm,
was literally almost like a flick of a light switch.
yeah.
You mentioned the weight.
Mm,
I hadn't noticed that, but you said to me, I feel like I'm putting on
mm.
weight.
You
But the
don't have
one
to be
thing,
polite,
no,
darling.
no, I seriously, but the one thing that I did notice was the
Mm,
sleep. And
yeah.
and that was almost like
Mm,
Monday night, I slept perfectly. Tuesday night onwards,
mm,
I'm struggling. And you'd say to me, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and
yeah.
I can't get back to sleep. And
Mm.
that for you was just unhealthy. heard of. Even
Yeah.
when you're ill, I mean, some
Mm,
people don't sleep when they're drunk. I don't sleep when I'm drunk.
mm,
Don't sleep very well, full stop. But for
mm.
you, it was like bang, and all of a sudden my sleep
Yeah.
pattern's affected.
Yeah, and I'd never ever had that. And then I started to sort of track what time it was, and it was often at 3 o'clock. And then a lot of other research that I've done, that is high cortisol levels as well.
So
Um,
hold on, let's explain to everyone because again, this is something that I mean,
that's not necessarily just for perimenopause though, the
right?
high
Okay,
cortisol levels, like that's brought on through stress and things.
okay,
But yeah, not sleeping well um, for perimenopause it can be linked to being hot and the hot sweats, but that's not what be as being a thing for myself.
right.
But we actually both got the Whoop, didn't we? About the Whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, the Whoop watch. Well, doesn't tell the time, but the
It's a
strap,
fitness
fitness
tracker
strap.
strap.
And so that's been really interesting. So I sort of wanted to get that to track my sleeping, my stress levels, and when I'm more recovered and things. Because
Well, you also had high heart rate as well, didn't you?
yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was another one, yeah, and a heart specialist friend of mine, I spoke to her briefly about it, and she was really helpful in, like, a five-minute conversation, and she said that, you can go to the doctors and have your heart rate checked, that can be something and she said that's very rarely used to detect in perimenopause and
Mhm.
menopause, but, it can actually tell quite a lot from your heart rate. Um so yeah, that's another thing that can be linked to it as well. Um, and here's my list. Yeah, a lot of anxiety and insomnia. Yeah, I did feel like my anxiety levels were becoming quite high because a lot of women that do go to the doctors to be because they may go saying that they think they've got depression or anxiety
Okay,
because they don't feel right, they don't feel themselves, which was how I was feeling at the start. But because I've suffered with anxiety previously years ago, I kind of knew the difference. Like
okay.
it didn't feel quite the same.
So does that mean then a lot of people could be being actively right now diagnosed incorrectly?
Oh, yes,
Because they could be
that's
going,
what I've heard a lot of.
so they're going to the doctors saying, I think I have depression or anxiety.
Mm,
Doctors saying, okay, this is what you can do to,
yeah, but it could just
right.
be perimenopause.
Okay,
Um, but what is given out to a lot of people in perimenopause is the anti-anxiety pills.
okay,
So Um, whether it helps or not, I don't know. Everybody's different, but a lot of people have said that it hasn't helped them for what
okay.
the symptoms that they were having. I mean, I'm sure it would take an edge off to an extent, but that is not what the underlying reason is why you're having it. So um, it is just something that I felt really passionate about speaking to other people about, men and women, because I think it's really hard for men to understand what the women are going through, to be able to support them and understand their feelings and emotions as well.
Yeah, I mean, I
So,
think it's obviously alien for you
mm,
and all the women going through it, but
mm,
just as much it's alien for us men as well.
mm,
And
mm,
uh, uh, it was really just weird seeing it actually because you were Helen, then you were Helen, but a different version of Helen, but just
mm,
very quickly. And so,
mm,
but I think from what you've told me, and I've tried to do as much reading as I possibly can on it, it's really hard because it's one of those things you don't know what someone's going through until you've walked a mile in their shoes, kind of thing. So,
mm, mm.
um, but I've tried to do some research and we've watched lots of programs. Davina McCall is
Yeah, that was a useful one.
my go-to if I get stuck on anything.
Mm,
I mean, I think I got you a couple of books.
mm,
We've watched a few of her programs on
mm.
perimenopause,
Yeah.
and I mean, some of the women on there have been suffering and trying to get a
Oh, it's
diagnosis for
so
years. I mean, they are
years.
in tears because they just know there's
Yeah.
something not right. They
Mm,
believe it's perimenopause or
mhm,
menopause, and the
mm,
doctors just will not
mm,
say yes. That you're saying it's
mm,
everything else, and
mm.
in that respect, I suppose you've been quite fortunate
Yeah.
in that you noticed a change
Mm,
within maybe 4 weeks or so. You'd started researching it,
mm,
putting two and two together, came up with
mm,
this conclusion, or at
mm,
least an assumption that I think this is perimenopause.
mm,
Went to the doctor,
mm,
and they agreed with you. Well, as instantly, really, didn't they?
mm.
After that
Yeah, I
session,
was
it
very
was yeah, I
lucky.
think you
Yeah.
have, and this is what we
Mm,
can do.
mm,
So in that respect, I suppose you've been really fortunate because some
mm.
women are still going through
Oh,
a
it must
I'm
be
not right and I don't know
torture.
what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm part of these some different Facebook forums where people are saying about their journey, and there's women literally pulling their hair out, going back to the doctor time and time again, simply being told no because of their age. I mean, I've got a number here. I mean, it does usually affect women between the ages of 45 and 55.
That's perimenopause.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, menopause,
Right.
menopause, and perimenopause. I think off the top is between 2 and 3 years, maybe 5 years for perimenopause. That
Right.
is like a little bit before the menopause.
So a woman's going to suffer with menopause potentially for, is it 5 years?
It can be up to ten
Up to
years.
10 years.
Yeah,
And then they may suffer with perimenopause.
for a
That's a
couple of years
big chunk of
before.
your
I
life.
know. Yeah.
Um, and sorry to interrupt you because but when we watched that Davina program, there were some women on there as
Mm.
young as like late 20s.
Yeah. I
I
mean
mean,
that.
rare, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is very, very rare. I did have a number here, um, of yeah, premature menopause is rare and
right.
estimated to affect 1% of women under the age of 40, um, and 0.1% of women under the age of 30. So it is very rare,
It is
but
rare,
how awful to
but
have to go through that early
oh,
because you just would not be diagnosed, would you?
well,
Unless
you
your
wouldn't
doctor was
even
really.
think it, would
Well,
you?
no, you wouldn't
This
think it
you wouldn't
either.
even. It's not
No.
even if you go to the doctor and say, "This is
Mm,
what I think it is," like you did. It'd
yeah.
be, "I'm not right, and I don't know what's wrong." And if
Mm,
doctors aren't getting trained on it,
this is
how
it.
can they point you in the right direction? But
Yeah.
for me, a 28-year-old or 29-year-old that's going to suffer with something like that, that
Mm,
is awful. And you said there that
mm.
less than 1% will have this
Perimenopause.
pre-perimenopause. Um, but I would like to know what that study is based on, because if we are saying that most
Yeah.
women
Are they
aren't
just
being
being told it's a
diagnosed
no?
or
Yeah.
wrongly diagnosed, surely that figure
Interesting.
then is just almost like a finger in the air sort of thing
Yeah.
rather than an actual factual number to go off.
Mm,
It could be an awful lot more.
yeah, no, I mean, that's an interesting point. Yeah. I mean, perimenopause officially ends and you reach menopause when you've not had a period for 12 months.
Right.
But a lot of women don't get a period anyway because they might be on the Marina coil,
Okay.
which is a different form of contraception. Um, so they don't have. A lot of women don't have a period with that at all.
So
So
they wouldn't know.
it's really hard to detect, even harder to detect because you've not got that instant way of telling whether you're
Yeah.
having your periods or not. Um, so yeah, and then obviously, you're already feeling a bit out of sorts, and then putting the weight on. No one feels great when they're putting the weight on anyway. Um, so there's a lot of advice to eat more healthily because you are more prone to be putting the weight on because of just your body changes and things.
Mhm.
So, um, then I'm trying to think of different ways to eat healthily, do more exercise, but then there's a whole new way of working out as you get older because your bones are becoming more brittle.
Okay.
So I read 1 minute that you shouldn't be doing really hard cardio
Mhm.
because it's too hard on your body and is stressing your body out too much, which will then give you higher cortisol levels. And then really, it's not good for your body to be that stressed because it's already stressed out. So it's saying to do weight training. So that's what I've sort of noticed a lot of women my age and older
Mhm.
tend to be doing at the gym now. So that's
Okay.
what I've been trying to do. Um, a little bit more of. So yeah, I think with anything, I think even when you have children, there's so many different conflicting, and in business, so many conflicting words of advice.
Right.
It's so hard to know what is right.
But isn't it just sort of like, though, with everything in life,
Mm.
just finding the bits that work for you? And
Well, yeah,
so trying
mm,
lots of different things
yeah,
for a period of time so you can
mm,
measure it almost.
mm,
I suppose just like you do in business, you implement a change,
yeah. I'd
you
see,
analyze it. Has
yeah,
it worked? Great, I'll
yeah,
continue with it. Has it not? Right, I go
mm,
back and try something different. And,
mm,
and I guess it's the same with this, right? Is you're trying lots
mm,
of different things
mm,
and working out the bits that are
mm,
relevant to you. So
yeah,
so you spoke there about that you felt difference, went to the doctor, got
mm,
a diagnosis relatively quickly,
mm,
and you were issued HRT. So HRT, and this is something that I learned, and you were going to
mm,
correct me all the way through this because obviously your learning and
mm.
knowledge is so much greater than mine. Um, but HRT had a lot of bad press.
Yeah. So this is where I don't know exactly all of the facts. But yeah, back when our parents were going through perimenopause, sort of, a few decades ago, it was linked to breast cancer,
Right.
having HRT, and that was probably by having, uh, I can't remember. Yeah, so it was just sort of like
Scaremongering.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
but it was
we
sort of linked to breast cancer, so I know for a fact I know that my mum didn't take it
and my mom
for that
didn't take it,
reason.
I know that.
Um, yeah.
But the research that we did afterwards, and again, this was a little while
Mm,
ago, so this might not be
mm,
totally accurate, but,
mm,
do your own research for everyone
mm,
who's listening and
mm,
watching. But from what I remember, those studies were done on women over the age of 60,
mm,
and your likelihood of developing breast cancer over certain ages
mm,
increases.
mm, mm,
So
mm,
it was a really unfair test that
mm,
was done.
mm,
And it's interesting, isn't it, how that um 30 years ago maybe
mm,
HRT was linked to breast cancer. And so,
mm,
but even today, because there's
mm,
not much for me, there's not much knowledge around this, not much sharing
mm,
of information.
mm.
It we're not taught this sort of stuff, are we? So,
No.
and actually, that's
Mm.
probably a topic we should talk about, is that why is this not brought up in school? So at least people
Yeah.
have a bit of an understanding that at some
Well,
point, later on in your
mm,
life,
mm,
as a woman, the chances are, because
yeah.
not everyone goes through it, right? But not everyone always has symptoms. But the
Yeah, if you're
chances are
lucky, yeah.
you are going to have
Yeah,
some symptoms that could
yeah.
be X, Y, and Z
Mm,
for this period of time. Because they
mm,
talk about
yeah.
periods, don't they? And they talk
Well,
about
I know, yeah,
childbirth and
yeah, and it'd be your parents that are going through it, so it'd be nice to understand why mummy is saying, "Hurry up!"
right.
So, I think that would be really useful.
Yeah.
For me, it clicked. It was like, at that age, that's why mum lost herself a
I
little
remember
bit
you
with
saying
my
that.
attitude.
Yeah. I remember you saying that.
And, a lot of people have sort of said similar things, so quite interesting, really. So yeah, I think everyone should be more aware of it. It's more useful for everybody to be. Yeah. So like same as periods, like we were trying to briefly discuss with our son about periods because he's nearly 11, and so obviously his peers, like the girls, will be going through that
Mhm.
soon. So it's nice for him to understand.
I think it's good to
If
understand, right?
anyone's in an awkward situation where she might have leaked or anything, don't you dare laugh.
Yeah.
She's gonna be mortified, so, be a good person and understand what's happening. So,
But this is where it
yeah,
is really good, though, that the boys are told about it as well, because
yeah,
your natural reaction as a young lad to see
mm,
blood on somebody is, oh my
mhm,
god, they're hurt, they've had an accident, and
yeah,
if it's a lot of blood,
yeah,
that could be a they're seriously hurt, so that could
mm,
create panic for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I think there needs to be a whole education piece on
mm,
all of these things that women face. Luckily, us
mm,
men don't have to deal with it,
mm,
most of this stuff.
mm.
Um, so
But
the
then
HRT, sorry,
you say that, though, about knowing about the blood. Here's a story for you.
go on.
When I started my period, um, my mum came to wake me up in the morning, and it was actually the day that Princess Diana died.
Okay.
I'll never forget it for that reason as well. And, yeah, I was just stretching in the morning, uh, like doing the downward dog, just stretching up and, stretching down, and my mum screamed and she went, "Oh my god, Helen." And
Typical
I
mum.
just burst out crying. I was like, "My god, what?" And then looked down, I was like, "Jesus."
Oh my god. That was a good way to break it to you.
So you say let's educate.
Maybe we should educate parents.
I mean, that is not meant in a bad way at
No,
all. My
no.
mum just, like, panics a little bit.
Yeah,
So, yeah, if you need a level head, I come to you. If I need, like, looking after and, a nice shoulder to cry on and a hug, I'll go to my
right.
mum. But if it's a stressful situation, then that's not her bag. She's excellent at so many other things. But, yeah, so that was just wow.
Right, so that was a great introduction to, ladyhood then.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Um,
I just never forgot that, so
so the HRT, so going back to that, sorry, a second.
mm.
Um, so you chose to take the HRT because
Just the gel because
the gel.
I didn't need to take the pill form
Right, here
because
we go. So I didn't know this. And so there's 2 types
yeah.
of HRT then.
No, it's called, because your levels of estrogen and I always call it the wrong,
You always call it pedestrian, but that's a
yeah, I
person
know, but
crossing the road.
that's a person, isn't it? Um, pro pro progesterone testosterone. I can't
We'll
say
try
it.
and dub it in afterwards.
Yeah.
The
So
P word.
yeah.
Estrogen,
And
estrogen and progesterone.
yeah. So they're what start changing in your body and affect your mood and everything. And so you need to take both of those as separate entities.
HRT and something
Yeah, but you
else.
keep asking me, and I'm not totally sure
Okay, that's
of
fine.
all the
Sorry,
names
sorry.
of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things. So I take the HRT gel, which is for one of them, and then the other one is generally a pill form.
Mhm.
But I don't need to take that because I'm on I'm on something else that doesn't
Right. Okay.
require that. So
I think this
it's
is the
just finding the right mix for your body as well,
right.
as to what suits your body. So it's not necessarily as straightforward as just taking that, or how much to take, or when to take, or even where to apply the gel, for
Mhm.
example. Um, so yeah, there's still a little bit of finding the right formula
Medicine for
for
you
you.
almost.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to say that this podcast isn't about you being a doctor and
No,
giving all the answers. This is just about
that's what
talking
it's
about
just a very sort of casual, "This is my
right.
experience," and I'm by no means, as it been clearly identified today, I'm not a doctor. I don't know all of the facts because I do also find it overwhelming, doing loads and loads of reading on one thing, and I struggle to make the time to remember everything as well. Um, so this was just like a casual thing about how I've found it and just a basic, very basic,
Yeah.
way that we've sort of been navigating it really.
And the only reason I suppose I'm asking all these questions is because
You
if you
thought I
do,
was cleverer,
I thought
brother.
you were cleverer. If you did know the answers, no, that's not fair. If I suppose the thing is I did all this research when you first diagnosed, which
Yeah,
was a good few months ago now,
yeah,
and rightly or wrongly, a lot of it I've forgotten.
yeah.
And so if women are struggling and they're not sure, I was
Mm,
just trying to the bits trying to suppose take you back through your journey of the
mm,
not feeling right, getting
mm,
diagnosed, and some
mm,
of the things that you were told, just so people can
mm.
maybe relate to that. And it might be that
Yeah.
hopefully somebody might listen to this and be like, do you know what? Those same symptoms you've just said,
Mm,
I'm struggling with. Maybe I might have this.
mm,
Maybe I need to go and see a doctor.
mm, mm,
And again, going back to that Davina McCall program,
mm,
I think the one thing that I took away from that
mm,
is well, two things really. Is one, if you're feeling not right, don't try and cover it up, right?
mm,
And if you believe it's something and the
mm,
doctor's saying no,
mm.
don't just give up.
Yeah, this
I know
is
it's
right.
really easy for me to
Yeah.
say that,
Mm.
but if you give up, you could be going through years
Yeah,
of
without any
torment that
advice.
you might not need
Mm,
to, because if
mm,
they can find
mm,
the recipe or the right
mm,
formula that works for them to help subdue some of those effects,
mm,
then why would you not do that? So,
mm.
go on.
Equally, a lot of people don't want to take it, and that is completely their choice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying pro taking this, that's just my personal choice, to take HRT gel currently at this moment in time. But a lot of people still don't choose to,
No.
and that is absolutely fine as well. This is the thing in life. It's down to your decision what you think is right for you and your body. And there are so many other ways of dealing with anything in life. So it's just finding the right recipe for you, really. So there's so many natural remedies that people are saying about. So a lot of exercise, getting that daylight that you can, taking time for you.
Mhm.
Diet is such a huge thing. Sleep is a huge thing. I've really had to prioritize sleep.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's just had to be a really big one for me for the sleep as well. Um, but equally with the Davina McCall program, not everybody agrees with everything that she said as well, because the doctor that I saw did say, "Oh yeah, she said a few things that I don't agree with."
Okay.
So again, it is very personable as to what your thoughts are on it as well. It's such a complex thing,
Mhm.
really. Um,
But so some
But
of
it's
the
just for
things
me, it
then
was mainly highlighting it that it's such a huge thing that women go through,
yeah.
and it's a very high chance of this age of people divorcing as well,
Okay, so that could
and
be
that
linked because of
does upset me thinking, you know what? I wonder if that has a big part to play in that.
well, it probably does, doesn't it? Because if you've got women that are changing in so
Mm,
many different ways, we're not
mm,
just talking about here weight. You mentioned mood,
mm,
tiredness,
mm,
all of those things. So you know
mm,
your wife as
mm,
X, and then within a few weeks she becomes Y.
mm,
And as a man, because she's
mm,
not being diagnosed or she doesn't
mm,
know,
mm,
as a man, how am I supposed to know? And
mm,
so for me, all I know is that
mm,
I have this wonderful wife,
mm,
and now she's going through, well, I don't know, she's going through a difficult time. All I know is she's become a
mm,
bit of a dragon
mm,
sometimes.
mm.
And that dragon's getting more and more.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more and worse. And
Mm.
a lot of it's
Whilst you
been
remain perfect.
well, sorry, remain perfect. And a lot of it's been taken out on me or
Yeah.
my family and stuff, because
Mm,
that's what we do, right? We take it out
mm.
on the ones we
Yeah,
love the
yeah,
most.
yeah,
We all do that.
yeah.
And so I can understand actually why
Mm.
then a partner or a husband then might be
Yeah.
thinking, I'm not
Not
putting up with
putting it
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's
Mm.
awful because
Yeah.
the woman's going through, you're going through it
Mm.
not knowing
Yeah.
all these things going on in your head.
Mm.
The poor bloke's been getting the other end of it, and he
Mm.
doesn't know what's going on. He just knows that
Mm.
his missus isn't the same as she was.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I can totally understand actually why.
Yeah.
But isn't that awful just
Yeah, I
because
do
doctors
find it
aren't
really sad to
diagnosing
think
properly?
that yeah, because yeah, you can totally see it. I mean, another thing for me is that I was losing my temper, and it was mainly in the morning on the school run when you weren't there, and I'd come into
Thank
work
God.
and I'd say, "Oh God, I really lost myself with our son this morning. You know, he wasn't ready." And I think every parent loses their like patience in the morning when
It's a rite
you
of
you
passage.
know what you need to do in the morning, son. It's not been done. Clean your
Yeah.
teeth, brush your hair.
For the
You know,
last 8 years,
get
you've been doing
washed, get
it.
dressed, get your bag ready. Have you done your lunch? Have you done your well? I do his lunch. Have you got your drinks bottle? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it, you know, and if you're running late as well, I was finding that I was like sort of shouting at him more than was really necessary, really. And then once I sort of took a step back and took that on board, I was just being more self-aware as
Mhm.
well. And it has totally changed now.
Yeah.
Um, just because you know, being self-aware is a huge thing as well. I'm not saying, oh, I've taken HRT, so I'm better. By no means is it just down to that. It's about self-awareness as well and being able to self-reflect. And
Mhm.
that's in life in general.
Right.
I mean, we've always said being able to self-reflect is huge
Mhm.
because nobody is perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going off on a tangent. I can tell in your tone.
No, no, not at all, not at all. But I just wanted to ask, so we've spoken a lot about how it impacted you at home and in family
Mm,
and that kind of thing, but how do you
mm.
think it impacted you at work? And
Well,
yeah, well, how did you think it changed or has changed, if it has changed at work?
well, yeah, I mean, I've noticed it more because, you know, I'm working with in our team, I work very closely with Stacey and have noticed that, you know, I am forgetting certain things and it's embarrassing.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I totally forgot um just something really basic and I was mortified and it was really, really embarrassing.
Mhm.
Um so yes, it's not I mean, I do think, you know, from time to time people do forget stuff. You forget stuff. Everyone forgets stuff.
I do not.
And get things wrong from time to time. And it, you know, it could some people will think, well, you know, you're just highlighting it more. You think looking out for it more, so you sort of self-diagnosing a bit. But I think you always know yourself best,
Mhm.
really. You know what your normal things are in life. But yeah, it's not nice when you forget stuff.
No.
Um, so yeah, I do have to write lists a lot more now.
So you do list.
So yes, doing lists
So
is a big
lists has
one for me.
helped.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. And then yeah, with caffeine intake, caffeine's not supposed to help. So I'm making sure that I'm taking decaf coffee now.
Right.
But I
Okay.
might have a normal coffee just once at 11 o'clock. But yeah, really just tried to cut down to decaf coffee or cut it out completely because it just doesn't really, it's no good.
So how could an employer
Mm,
help? So as a man,
mm,
if
mm,
I had a team of women that were suffering with
mm,
perimenopause or menopause,
mm,
what could I do? I mean, reasonably, I suppose, the same with
mm,
everything in life. But
mm,
what reasonable adjustments do you think could be made to help
mm.
people going through it from a work point of view?
Yeah. Well, there are specialists within menopause that can come to the workplace to discuss it with the team.
Okay.
And so I would advise a specialist to come
Mhm.
to educate the team. You know, I'm not a specialist by any means, so having a specialist there, I'm sure, would be really, really helpful to educate the whole of the team. males and females, or whatever they identify as, to help educate everybody
Mhm.
really. Um, so because it's going to be different for everybody,
Right.
and so I think it needs to be a case by case, really.
So there's no really like a one
Well,
solution fits
no.
all kind
Yeah,
of the
same as
round.
anxiety, same as
Right.
depression, same as all the rest. Like, you can't really. I mean, yeah, you can say, I think it's just trying to be open and honest with your team,
Yeah.
having regular one to ones, regular discussions, and just trying to be open,
Okay.
um, and just not making new topics awkward to talk about. I mean, it can be awkward, if in my previous roles, it would have been awkward for me to discuss this with my manager,
Hmm.
being a male and not really taking my mental health on board at all back
Right.
then. So to discuss that, I just wouldn't. I'd just suffer. So um, it's just trying to make the workplace somewhere where you feel you can be open and honest and
Hmm.
discuss that sort of thing, and
Okay.
try and take that on board with them.
That's good. That's something that
Mm,
employers can take away, right? Is that try and create
mm.
an inclusive environment and that a place where people feel comfortable to talk to somebody.
But to give their employees the education about it so that they can go for help
Hmm.
as well. Like, knowing that it can be really helpful to do certain exercises to reduce your sugar intake, to make sure you're getting your sleep and prioritizing your sleep and downtime and things. And, that's educating them how to better themselves as
Hmm.
well.
So, what are the things then that you have found that have worked for you? So, we've mentioned HRT
Yeah.
that's
The
worked
gel.
for you, the gel.
Mm.
You mentioned lists have been really
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah.
Um,
Exercise in the morning at the start of the day.
okay,
Yeah, getting out, fresh air, um, getting out into the true sunlight.
okay. So, exercising early morning if you can
Mm,
outdoors,
mm.
reducing caffeine
Yeah,
intake,
yeah,
healthy eating and exercise.
yeah, but we're a bit naughty for naughty food.
We
But if we were healthier, I think that would be better.
okay. That's another podcast another time.
The exercise was great. Again, that sort of slacked a little bit recently because work has just taken over, but that was nice. I enjoyed getting into that routine of the exercise, and that is I mean, that's great to build muscle
Mhm.
around your bones as they become more brittle. So that's a really huge one as
Okay.
well.
And was there
Yeah.
anything else that we might have missed that has helped
Probably,
you?
but I've probably forgotten.
Was that's the symptom, right? That's the thing now. Everything you forget is going to
I
be
think a
that's because I
huge
have
one for me,
perimenopause.
yeah, yeah, I think a huge one for me is speaking to others that have gone through and going through it.
Mhm.
That that's what I'm trying to open up people to speak to others about it.
So would that be your one piece of it? If you could give then, if somebody comes to you and they
Yes.
say I'm suffering, is that your one piece of advice?
Try and be open and honest to the extent that you feel comfortable talking about it.
Mhm.
Um, because what some women have gone through and are going through that I know and that I don't know is just insane,
Mhm.
and to have to go through that in silence is really upsetting. So the usual, a problem shared is a problem halved. I'm a
Halved.
big believer of that. So speak to people about it,
Mhm.
whether it's a close friend or somebody in your family or somebody at work that you know from that they may have gone through it. It can just help so much. You're not going through it alone. You're
Mhm.
not mad. You're not crazy.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you're
Is
not.
you just need to speak to somebody, and
Mm.
I think I've learned a lot about it. Still got a hell of a lot more to
Oh
learn.
yeah, as have
Um,
I. Like
but
to so much.
I think that, as I say, the fortunate thing out of all of this was that for
Mm,
you,
mm,
you were able to get diagnosed
mm,
almost instantly, relatively quickly
mm,
at least.
mm.
So yeah, it's quite an intense podcast, really, wasn't it?
Just the one topic really,
But
but
I think it was really we've
mm,
spoke about it before, haven't we? And
mm,
you've alluded to it in other episodes around that you've
mm,
been diagnosed with perimenopause, you're going through perimenopause and mental
mm,
health. And one
yeah.
thing I think we've both tried to do as we've gotten older is be more open and honest with people and saying that, you know, when we are suffering with things, it's good to talk to somebody about stuff just
Mm,
because it's different perspectives. You don't
mm.
always have to take everyone's advice, but you can
No,
listen
yeah,
and see
yeah,
what they say, and it might
yeah.
spark something else.
Mm,
So I think we've both become like that as we've gotten older, more
mm,
open and trying to share and help
mm.
others.
Yeah.
around you by doing that. So,
Mm.
and we've kind of threatened to talk about this subject
Mhm.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, just thought we'd have a conversation about
Mm.
it, see if we
Mm.
can educate somebody.
Yeah. Something that we've been going through at this moment in time. I'm 41, by the way.
I'm
41 and a half.
42, 3,
No, you're
4.
not. You're 41 as
Is
well.
this a bloke thing? Because I never, ever, 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 ever,
Get your
ever
age
get my age
correct.
correct. No.
You usually add a year or two,
Yeah.
and we're the same
Are
age.
we? 43. I'm useless. But I think it's because I don't
Mm.
care how old I am, because it
Well,
doesn't
yeah.
really mean anything.
Mm.
When people, I mean, you don't
Yeah.
go up to somebody, do you, at our age, say, "Oh, how old are you?" I
Mm.
mean, you do when you're a kid, don't you?
Yeah.
How old are you? 13. Oh,
Yeah.
you're 13. I'm only 12. What's it like
Yeah,
being
it's a real big
13? Yeah.
difference.
But
Yeah.
like now, it's,
Yeah. If you were dating, you would, though. You would be interested to know how old they were.
I don't know if I would be that. I don't know, actually. Maybe, yeah, because I suppose it's a question to ask, isn't it? If the
Yeah.
conversation's running dry, it's a good,
Yeah.
how old are you again?
Yeah.
But no, I don't care. So I think maybe that's why I
Mm.
don't keep track of it.
Mm.
I know what year I was born in, but I just never work it out. And somebody
Yeah.
will say, "How
Get
old are
that
you?"
brain ticking, working out how old you are.
Yeah, somebody will say, "How old are you?" I'll say, "Helen, how old am I?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So, well, it's
Mm.
been another crazy day at the madhouse.
Yes, I know.
We didn't
God.
think we were going to get this in, did we?
No. No, neither of us got changed from the day at work, and it's
No.
like,
Well, we're
we
still at
just need
work.
to come on, sit down, get it done.
Yeah.
Now you need to go.
I've had to make 2 edit stops in this video because the dog came over whining and crying.
Mm.
And
Now
so
she's
yeah,
dropped off.
had to usher her off.
Mm.
So there might be 2 clips or stops through this you might
Yeah.
notice. I will try and hide them.
Yeah. There's some cross looks from you while she's
Cross looks,
whining
yeah,
at
it's the
me. Yeah.
don't know what face that is, but that's my angry face.
Don't do
We should do an episode on faces,
Oh,
or maybe
God.
not.
No.
Uh, so yeah, I think that's everything. Unless there's anything else you wanted
No,
to
it's just
mention.
yeah, just,
You've got your list there,
yes, I have. I have, yeah.
list of facts and information. And it was
Mhm.
funny this, isn't it? Because we've
Mm.
always done this so that we just do it non-scripted. We're
Yeah.
going to continue to do it non-scripted. It's just
Yeah.
we pick a topic and we talk about it, and
Yeah.
whatever comes out comes out.
Yeah.
Um, which is good and bad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
but we thought it was really important this time to write some of this stuff down, simply
Yeah.
because obviously with you suffering it at the moment
Mm.
and you knowing way more about it than I know,
Mm.
it kind of just made sense to do that, right? Just
Yeah.
so there was kind of those prompt points so that we could get all that
Yeah.
information out
I
to
mean,
everybody.
yeah. No, I mean, I didn't have loads because I didn't wanna be sat here reading, but
Yeah.
it's just to sort of highlight that, to speak about it more,
Yeah.
and you're not alone.
Right. So now I need
Mm.
to try and get cheering, get back to work,
Mhm. And get the sign out on.
get the sign out on.
Yeah. Sign in, sign out on the pod.
What is the sign off?
I don't know.
We haven't. Oh, that's the homework for next week then.
Mm.
Well, we could use the same one as a sign on.
Mm.
Although, actually, I do like the idea of just
Mm.
saying to
Mm.
people, ending is being,
Yeah.
just remember to be nice to each other
Mm.
and try and help somebody if you can.
Mm.
In even if
Mm.
it's, yeah, I think, right, here we go. My sign off is going to be
Mm.
toodaloo.
Oh, God. What movie is that from?
The hangover.
The Hangover.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Oh, it's so oh,
I
it
have to
is
beep that out if the
funny.
kids are around, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So we keep saying to each other, but because our son's there, we keep saying "toodaloo," and we have to end it there because we obviously, of course, can't swear in front of
yeah,
him. But so it's not got the same ring,
no,
but it
toodaloo.
still makes us laugh, doesn't
No,
it?
but I just want to say to people that as an ending for end off from or sign off from me, that
Mm,
you just try and be nice to each other,
mm,
try and help somebody, and just
mm,
remember to say like just good morning, please, thank
mm.
you, because it means so much to
Oh,
the
you
other
know what?
person.
My bugbear is when
Oh, here we
people
go.
don't say please or thank
Now
you.
you saw my angry face. You've just seen
Oh,
your angry face,
it honestly, it just winds me up.
right?
Oh, I can't stand it.
And on that note,
Yes.
we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye bye.